Today we can all see how the woke movement exercises a topic that deeply resonates with the Palestinian community. Society will need time to digest the whys and hows about these internal processes later, as soon as the tragic actions end in the Middle East region. Still, there is something that impacts the US population here and now. Last semester, I experienced that on my own when one of the professors decided to support college students by arranging a vigil for Gaza. I thought I would never experience that fear again, but it was so real as never before. In my consular session that day, we could find an answer to my fears. I was not welcome at that event, while I had so much to say to fellows. As a Jewish and Israeli and someone who had threatened before arriving to the United States. As I was looking for external support, I found lots of information about history of anti-Semitism in the United States. I also founded the civil organization which carried the mission of stopping the defamation of the Jewish people and securing justice and fair treatment for all since 1913. The Anti-Defamation League was established in 1913. The ADL was founded after the lynching of Lev Frank, focusing initially on combating anti-Semitism during World War I, which was prevalent in media and the US military training materials. And in the 20s, the ADL led campaign against Henry Ford, the Dearborn Independent, publication promoting anti-Semitic content pressuring Ford to apologize in 1927. The ADL also opposed to Ku Klux Klan anti-Semitic actions such as boycotting Jewish businesses, vandalism, and harassment of synagogues. As World War II approached and happened, the direction slightly switched and ADL was introduced to another challenge. In 1954, ADL argued to separate but equal doctrine. The doctrine was historically used to justify a separate school system for black and white children. So in 1954, the Supreme Court ruled in Brown versus Board of Education that school segregation was unconstitutional and violated the 14th Amendment. Despite that, in many communities in the United States, African American and white people were still segregated in schools, public transportation, and restaurants. Yale supports the Civil Rights Act and its development, and in 1964, these injustices were legally prohibited. Later, ADL launched the Crack the Quota campaign in the 50s to remove barriers to college and university admission for Jewish students in the United States, and also later aided in the Vatican's Nostra Aetate reform that established peace between the Catholics and Jews. Later, as the quotas were removed, ADL switched its focus to another broader matter, especially as internet access started spreading. In 1958, in 1985, ADL published Computerized Network of Hate, a detailed report raising a concern about the spread of hate on new technology platforms, including how computer bulletin boards serve as communication tool for white supremacists. EDL also developed a tool that provides an infographic highlighting topics that society reacts critically and painfully. Any publicly presented ideas usually find support and thus identifies a problem or enemy get threatened. EDL puts such effort reports on their hate, extremism, anti-Semitism, and terrorism map. In June 1993, the United States Supreme Court upheld a Wisconsin hate crime statute based on model legislation initially drafted by the ADL in 1981. Later, the Supreme Court unanimously ruled that there is a meaningful distinction between punishing the content of speech and using speech as evidence of motive in a crime. There is no doubt that many other actors play their roles in every story and event that I have outlined in this presentation. However, as the issue remains relevant, numerous agents will be necessary in the future. In conclusion, it is essential to note that ADL still operates and adheres to its mission today. That's why I presented the ADL achievements through its history, as people continue to resonate with the most prominent statements. It is very important than ever to remember critical thinking, the role of respectful communication, supporting each other, and not getting tricked by those who aim for polarization. Throughout but caring community thorough but caring community outreach and respectful discussion of concern were and remain a mission of ADL.